What's going on, guys? Dan Watson, and I am shooting with the Canon EOS R5 and the R6. I've been using these cameras like crazy for the past couple of weeks, like to the point where my wife said if we have another overheating test on the dining room table, she might just kill me for that one. But we're going to be talking about mostly the video side of this one, but we do have a video on the photo side between these two cameras coming out, so stay tuned for that. I'll link it below, or better yet, just subscribe, hit the notification bell, and you'll be good to go on that one. But basically, when it comes to video, I mean, the R5 seemed like the clear winner here. It is more expensive, but with 8K, 8K RAW, 4K 120, just loaded with video features, it seemed like the better camera. However, that big strength of that high resolution sensor is a big weakness in a lot of other areas, and that R6 really comes in and actually looks better in a whole lot of areas than the R5. However, even that comes with so many asterisks, you might not want to consider the R6 for video. So we'll get into that and the comparison between these cameras and which one is going to be the best one for you. So right out of the gate, the cameras are remarkably similar here. I mean, the button placement is almost identical on them. It's hard to tell the difference between them. You do have your headphone port and a mic input, as well as HDMI, micro HDMI, but that's on both cameras right here. The flip screen is 3.2 inches on the R5 versus 3 inches on the R6. So small difference there. You do have a little better quality viewfinder on the R5 if you're into that. The big difference is going to be the mode dial, traditional mode dial on the R6 versus the screen, and you kind of have to hit this mode button and access some of your settings to switch between your buttons. I do think that the traditional mode dial is actually faster for switching between photo and video, as well as your C1, C2 kind of settings on this. So kind of an advantage on the R6 on that one. And then also the build quality is slightly different, so you will get a little bit better build quality and weather sealing on the R5. However, that means it's a little bit heavier. So you can kind of decide which one is going to be the better fit for you on that. Now, there are two massive video modes that the R6 is missing, and one is going to be 8K and one is going to be 4K at 120 frames per second. Now the 8K, the reason why it's missing it is very apparent. It only has a 20 megapixel sensor, so it just doesn't have the resolution for 8K, whereas the R5 does. The 4K 120 at first to me kind of felt like Canon was limiting the R6. However, if we look closely, the R5 can only shoot 4K 120 in the all-eye compression, and that is actually too high of a bitrate. It's like 1900 megabits per second to record to an SD card. So it seems like the limit there is actually more of the card choice than anything else. So I do wish we had the option for a lower bitrate 4K 120, because you will chew through cards like crazy if you use that on the R5. However, that is not an option on the R6 because of the cards. Now, the big question is if it even matters. And honestly, guys, the R6 shoots such amazing quality 4K. It's oversampling from the 5.1K sensor, so you are getting extreme detail on that, that even when I compared it to the R5, you can really barely tell the difference. I'm sure on YouTube you will barely tell. If I zoom in at 200% or look really carefully or shoot these kind of static subjects like I am in the studio here, you can see it a little bit more, but mild advantage there. Now 4K 120 is a different situation. You only have 1080p at 120 frames per second on the R6. So if you're shooting that kind of slow motion, there's a huge limitation there, and you can absolutely see the difference between these two cameras at 120 frames per second. The R5 is going to be a huge win for you. Now, the other secret weapon is 8K RAW on the R5. And at first I didn't think the difference between RAW would be that big of a difference when it came to comparing it to like C-Log. However, it was a stormy, rainy day, and it is right now. We got like tremendous rainstorms right now, thunder all over the place. So you might even be able to hear it in the video here. But the R5 with that 8K RAW made a big difference. So comparing it to a regular C-Log, which is already 10-bit, you can absolutely get about 1 to 2 stops more on the R5 when it's in that RAW mode. So if you're somebody who prioritizes dynamic range, that 8K RAW might be really nice to have. Now, if we dig a little bit deeper, you do have IPB compression only on the R6, and the bit rates are still really high, up to about 230 megabits per second here. However, the R5 does have that as well as all eye recording, which means that each frame is going to be compressed individually. Usually if you're looking at like heavy motion, you can start seeing seeing the difference with that all-eye being a much better quality. However, it does mean much higher bitrate options. You're going to chew through cards a lot more. If you're shooting something still like this, that IPB is absolutely going to be fine on that. So kind of up to you if that matters a little bit, but you do have the option of shooting all-eye recording inside the R5. And remember that the 4K 120 is going to mandatory on you for all-eye compression. Now, even when it comes to the more standard video modes like 4K 24, 4K 60, if you thought these cameras were even a little bit similar, you are way off. So basically, while we had the advantage on the R5 in shooting 8K, if you want to take that 8K and make it 4K, the camera can do it in one of two ways. It will either pixel bin and line skip, which is the low quality way of doing it. This is going to matter a lot when it comes to overheating, so stay tuned. And it also has the option of oversampling that, which is amazing quality to get that 8K to 4K, and the camera can do both. Now, when we compare the files between these, you can absolutely tell the difference between the R6, which oversamples in every mode, to the R5 in low quality mode. You can absolutely see that the R6 looks better. Now, if you take that R5 and throw it into the high quality 4K mode, it does look better and even better than the R6, and it is a massive difference between the low quality and that high quality mode. Now throw both of these cameras into 4K 60, and again, you're gonna see that the R6 looks better than the R5. And again, that's because it's able to oversample in that mode where the R5 is actually not able to do it. Now, if you think that that's gonna be a win for the R6, not so fast, because both of these cameras have crop modes, which are great for when you need a little bit more reach, but are also gonna matter a lot for that overheating. So when you throw these cameras into the crop mode, all of a sudden, the R5 looks amazing. So that mode is going to oversample from the pixels that are left, which is over 5K, and you're gonna have better results than the R6. So whether you're recording 4K 24, 4K 30, in that APS-C crop mode, things look better. Also, drop them into 4K 60, and again, the R5 is going to be a huge win here with more detail overall, and it's going to do a little bit better in the overheating test as well. So we'll throw a chart up here so you can kind of see those differences because there are a lot there, but basically, depending on if you're in APS-C crop or full frame mode, and depending on what the frame rate is and the high quality versus low quality is going to depend on which camera is better, so you can kind of see what you might be shooting at the most and which camera is going to be better for that. So obviously none of that matters if a camera is going to overheat on you, and that's where things make a huge difference here. Now, Canon has been very forthcoming with the numbers on this. I have tested these cameras out like crazy, and I found that they're pretty realistic, the numbers that they're detailing here. But basically, the R5 is going to overheat on you in anything except for the 4K 24 and 4K 30 low quality mode, or in the APS-C crop modes. And again, remember, the APS-C crop modes are higher quality than the 4K low quality mode, so that is where you're gonna wanna be at if you get the R5 on this one. The R6, on the other hand, can actually go a little bit longer in most of those high quality modes. However, there is absolutely no mode that's gonna give you unlimited recording here. So when I took the R6 and had it at 4K 30 full frame, in the low quality mode, the Canon went forever. In the high quality mode, it went for about 30 minutes on here. The R6, however, just went about 32 minutes, I believe it was. I'll put all the details up here, but 32 minutes, and it overheated on me. Once it overheated, I was not able to do anything else on the camera because it didn't have any modes that offer unlimited recording, whereas when I do overheat, even in the high quality modes on the Canon, I can always switch it to the lower quality modes and still record on that one. Now, once I flipped over into the crop modes, again, the R5 gave me unlimited recording in that 4K 24, 4K 30 crop mode. And even if I had overheated the camera, I could put it into one of those modes and it absolutely would keep recording on me. The R6 actually went a little bit longer in that. It gave me just over 50 minutes of recording on that, but it still overheated on me. And this is indoors. I mean, in my nice AC cooled office right here, it actually got a little bit worse when it came to outdoor. All right, we are 53 minutes in. I did just lose the Canon EOS R6 a few minutes ago. We'll try and turn this back off, turn it back on. And you can see that warning there. It says 0 time to do that. I just did a full battery swap, so let's see. Okay, we still cannot record on this camera. It's been 3 minutes and a brand new battery, no recording on it. All right, we have just hit the 2-hour mark and not even an overheating warning on the R5 on this one. So we're shooting 4K APS-C crop, which is actually really high quality on this camera, and we're good to go on the overheating. So clear to say, if you want to be able to record quite a while, this is definitely a mode that is going to get you there. And again, these are fresh start cameras, so the brand new batteries, cooled off, never used for the entire day, and those are the limits there. If you have been shooting with the camera at all, whether it's photos, whether it's videos, whether it's just kind of setting up the shot, you will not get that kind of recording. All of those kind of eat into that limit. So for example, I did a photo shoot where we were out for like an hour recording. When I switched into video mode, I got like less than 10 minutes of 4K recording on the R6. So again, no matter what you're doing, you're going to be eating into that time limit. And that is really the biggest issue with these cameras. And they do take a long time to get that time back. So about 2 hours is a full refresh rate from overheating back to unlimited recording. So my biggest issue with the R6 is that no matter how I used it in any mode, if I was recording over 45 minutes, it just wasn't possible in this camera. And that includes even if you're factoring in photos and video and a little bit of both, you will really start to limit what you can do on this camera. And even a photo/video shoot for a couple hours, you have a high chance of overheating the R6. Whereas on the R5, you might overheat a little bit faster if you're using 4K 60 or 4K 120, but at least you can still shoot video in any of the 4K 24 or 4K 30 options. Now, both of these cameras do have 1080p, which wasn't overheating on me, so that's an option for you guys, but it is pixel binned and line skipped, and it just doesn't look great. So for me, if you're recording anything more than 2 hours throughout the day, I think the only camera that you can really get away with relying on is going to be the R5, and even that is going to be a little bit limited, the types of places and uses for it. But hold up a little bit, because if we take these cameras into low light, all of a sudden, again, those extra pixels in the R5 are working against it, and the R6 looks way better in low light. I would say it's about a stop better, but at 6400 ISO, you can see the difference between these cameras. And the R6 is holding up really well. It kind of makes me mad that Canon didn't go a little bit more all out with the video features in this and being able to shoot, I don't know, 4K RAW and 4K 120 with CFexpress cards, and also giving us different options and modes to have unlimited recording without overheating. We just don't have that in the R6, and it's kind of unfortunate because yes, in low light, you are also going to be one stop better. Now, both of these cameras do have a lot of advantages to them. So you do have amazing autofocus on both of these cameras. It's the same system. You also have the same IBIS in both of these cameras, 10-bit recording in both. You do have to use C-Log in order to get 10-bit, so do keep that in mind. But zebras, you have actually 2 zebras. So you can set one to like skin tones and one to overexposing completely, but you also do have the same downsides between these, and that is overheating. And then also you do have a 30-minute recording limit on both of these cameras, which I honestly think is a little bit unexcusable. And then also both cameras cannot record to both memory cards when you're shooting video. So single cards only, no backup recording, which I found really interesting because virtually every other camera on the market can shoot dual to both cameras. Even in the low quality 4K modes, it's not going to be possible. Now, if you are stepping up from any other camera that Canon has ever made, these are going to be both a huge step up. I mean, even the 1DX Mark III that just came out couldn't even shoot full frame 4K 60 if you wanted autofocus on it. And here you have all that with IBIS and just so much more on even the R6. So it is a huge step up from that. However, I just think that if you're shooting anything that's more than a couple hours long, you're probably gonna want the R5. And even that, you're gonna wanna choose those frame rates and how you shoot the camera very carefully as of now. So I've been shooting a lot with these cameras. I got a whole bunch more coming up. So feel free to let me know if you do have a test you want to see or have a question down below. Also, I'm working on help guides for these cameras right now. They will be done very shortly, so keep it in mind. I'll post a link down below when those are ready for you. I'll give you a coupon code as well for hanging out and watching this video. Please subscribe, guys. Hang out with me soon. We got a whole lot coming out. Hope you guys are doing well, and I'll see you soon.